Ever notice how some of the biggest names in country music just disappeared? Not because they wanted to, but because Nashville showed them the door. Today, we're diving deep into the stories of 21 legendary artists who were either officially banned, quietly blacklisted, or straight up rejected by the very industry they helped build. Trust me, some of these stories will blow your mind. Let's get into it. Picture this. It's the late 1960s, and there's this guy writing songs that are more like poetry than your typical country fare. That's Kris Kristofferson for you. While Nashville was churning out polished, radio-friendly tunes, Kristofferson was penning lyrics about loneliness, despair, and the raw edges of human emotion. The problem? Nashville executives thought his stuff was too intellectual and not country enough. But here's where it gets wild. Kristofferson wasn't about to take no for an answer. Legend has it he borrowed a helicopter and literally landed it in Johnny Cash's backyard just to hand-deliver a demo tape. Talk about making an entrance. Cash loved what he heard and recorded Sunday Morning Coming Down, which shot straight to #1. Suddenly, Janis Joplin, Ray Price, even Elvis started covering his songs. Eventually, he joined the Highwaymen alongside Cash, Willie Nelson, and Waylon Jennings, cementing his place as a legend. Sometimes you've just got to crash land your way to success. 2004 was Gretchen Wilson's year. Her debut single, Redneck Woman, exploded onto the scene, celebrating working-class Southern women with an unapologetic attitude. The song hit #1, earned her a Grammy, and established her as a force to be reckoned with. But here's the thing about Nashville. They love you when you're a novelty, but the moment you don't fit their evolving image, you're out. Wilson's raw, loud, and defiant style clashed with the increasingly polished pop country sound taking over. Despite follow-up hits like Here for the Party and Homewrecker, country radio gradually stopped spinning her records. Rather than compromise, Wilson started her own label, Redneck Records, and kept releasing music on her own terms. She maintained a fiercely loyal fan base who appreciated her authenticity. Wilson's story proves that sometimes building a legacy means walking away from the mainstream spotlight and staying true to yourself. If there's one artist who perfectly embodies the fight against Nashville's control, it's Waylon Jennings. During the 1960s and early 70s, Nashville operated like a factory. Producers and label executives called all the shots, crafting that slick, polished Nashville sound. Artists? They were just products to be packaged. Waylon signed with RCA Victor under producer Chet Atkins, and immediately they tried to mold him. Cut his hair, wear rhinestone suits, tone down his edge. So he did something radical. He demanded complete creative control over his music. This was unheard of in Nashville at the time. The industry resisted him hard. Radio programmers wouldn't play his music because it didn't fit their formula. Executives labeled him a troublemaker, but Waylon kept pushing, recording raw, rebellious songs that spoke to real people. Eventually, his persistence paid off, and he helped birth the entire outlaw country movement, proving that artistic integrity could win. Farron Young had it all. Massive hits like Hello Walls and Live Fast, Love Hard, Die Young, a commanding stage presence, and genuine talent. But Young also had demons that would eventually consume him and his career. Known for his volatile personality and alcohol-fueled outbursts, Young became increasingly difficult as he aged. He made sexist remarks, acted inappropriately at award shows, and publicly criticized modern country music as bubblegum pop. He resented younger artists who didn't acknowledge the veterans, and his bitterness created serious rifts with Nashville's power players. As the industry tried to project a cleaner image, they had less tolerance for Young's behavior. Radio stopped playing his songs. Award shows stopped inviting him. The Grand Ole Opry stopped asking him to perform regularly. Young saw this as betrayal, and the rejection devastated him. Tragically, in December 1996, Farron Young took his own life at age 64, leaving behind a complicated legacy of brilliance and brokenness. Hank Williams Sr. made his Grand Ole Opry debut in 1949 after a string of hits like Hey Good Lookin' and Your Cheatin' Heart. During that debut, he received 6 encores. 6! The man was electric on stage and audiences couldn't get enough. But Hank had a serious drinking problem. It had already gotten him fired from a radio station where he'd shown up drunk multiple times. As his alcoholism worsened at the Opry, he started missing scheduled shows without explanation. By 1952, just 3 years after joining, the Opry dismissed him. Hank Williams died a few months later on New Year's Day 1953. He was only 29 years old. In 2003, his grandson Hank Williams III tried to get him posthumously reinstated into the Opry, but they refused, stating that membership can only exist while someone's alive. It's a heartbreaking reminder that sometimes talent isn't enough when personal demons take control. Margo Price refuses to play by the rules, and Nashville has made sure she pays for it. Her 2016 debut album, Midwest Farmer's Daughter, was a gut punch of emotional honesty. She sang about losing her infant son, financial struggles, addiction, and jail time. Critics loved it. Country radio? Crickets. Mainstream country prefers its content polished and upbeat. Reality-based songwriting doesn't get much love. But Price didn't stop there. She became outspoken about sexism in the industry, reproductive rights, and corporate control. She once tweeted, "Country radio wouldn't even play Dolly Parton today," calling out the industry's narrow definition of what counts as country. Her 2020 album, That's How Rumors Get Started, showcased even more range, but again, radio gave it minimal support. Price continues touring and building a dedicated fan base who appreciate her refusal to compromise. She's carrying the torch for authenticity in an industry that increasingly values marketability over artistry. July 19, 1956, Johnny Cash stepped onto the Grand Ole Opry stage and performed I Walk the Line. It was the beginning of a legendary relationship with the venue. Cash moved to California, signed with Columbia, and released hit after hit, including Ring of Fire. But by the mid-60s, Cash's life was spiraling. During a 1965 Opry performance, Cash, completely intoxicated, dragged his microphone stand across the stage, smashing every single footlight. Cash later recalled, "The night I broke all the lights on the stage with the microphone stand, they said they couldn't use me anymore. So I left and used that as an excuse to get wild and wound up in the hospital the third time I broke my nose." Thankfully, this story has a redemption arc. June Carter intervened. With her help and the Carter family's support, Cash cleaned up and returned to the Opry stage in 1968. His membership was reinstated and he remained a member for the rest of his life, passing away in September 2003, just 5 months after June died. Sometimes love really can save you. Sturgill Simpson is proof that even critical acclaim can't break through Nashville's commercial walls. His 2014 album, Metamodern Sounds in Country Music, was a psychedelic, roots-infused masterpiece. Critics hailed him as a visionary. Country radio? They pretended the album didn't exist. Simpson's sound didn't fit the pop-heavy blueprint dominating Nashville's airwaves. Rather than chase trends, he doubled down and started publicly criticizing the industry. He called out the CMA Awards for excluding Merle Haggard in their tribute segment, and spoke candidly about corporate politics that sidelined true artistry. At one point, Simpson even stopped considering himself a country artist. So frustrated was he with Nashville's image-driven priorities. He's since explored other genres, but his story remains a powerful example of the growing divide between artistic authenticity and commercial conformity. While Nashville shut him out, his fans have kept him thriving. Kitty Wells wasn't technically banned from Nashville, but what she faced might have been worse. Institutional resistance that tried to keep her music from ever reaching audiences. In the 1940s and early 50s, country music was a boys' club. Record labels believed female solo artists wouldn't sell. Then in 1952, Wells recorded It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels, a direct response to Hank Thompson's hit that blamed women for men's bad behavior. Wells's song challenged those double standards and became the first #1 country song by a solo female artist. But NBC Radio and several major stations banned it for being too suggestive. The Grand Ole Opry and NBC initially refused to play it, calling it morally questionable. While Wells herself wasn't banned, her music faced serious censorship from Nashville's biggest platforms. She earned her title as the Queen of Country Music through sheer perseverance against a system designed to silence her. Before Dierks Bentley became a Grand Ole Opry member in 2005, he was banned from the venue. And the reason is pretty hilarious. While working at the Nashville network on Opryland grounds, Bentley discovered he could sneak backstage on weekends and mingle with Opry performers. He did this repeatedly until Opry general manager Pete Fisher caught on and limited his access. But here's the kicker. Bentley's first #1 hit, What Was I Thinking?, was inspired by a girl he met during one of those sneaky backstage visits. Bentley released his debut in 2003, made his Opry debut that same year, and was inducted as a member on October 1st, 2005. He's said that during his performances now, he leaves his dressing room door wide open, remembering what it felt like to be a fan, desperately trying to get close to the magic. From banned to beloved, that's quite a journey. Merle Haggard's story is one of the most remarkable in country music history. A man who went from San Quentin prison to country music royalty, but not without facing serious pushback from Nashville's establishment. Born during the Great Depression and raised in a converted boxcar, Haggard had a troubled youth that led to San Quentin for attempted robbery. While in prison, he saw Johnny Cash perform, and it changed his life. After his release in 1960, he was determined to make it in music. But Nashville wasn't welcoming to ex-convicts. The industry preferred clean-cut images and wholesome backstories. Haggard sang about working-class struggles, prison life, and the experiences of people society had written off. Songs like Mama Tried and Sing Me Back Home were drawn from his real life. And that authenticity made some in Nashville uncomfortable. His 1969 hit, Okie from Muskogee, created another controversy. Throughout the 70s and 80s, despite his massive talent and string of hits, Haggard was often kept at arm's length by Nashville's elite. Award shows would snub him. Haggard never stopped being himself. He continued writing honest songs about real people's lives. By the time he passed away in 2016, he was finally recognized as one of the greatest country artists of all time. But it took decades. His legacy proves that sometimes the outcasts become the legends. Steve Earle burst onto the scene in the mid-'80s with hits like Guitar Town and Copperhead Road, immediately establishing himself as one of country music's finest songwriters. But Earle had a problem. He wouldn't stay quiet about issues that made people uncomfortable. Earle has never shied away from tackling subjects like poverty, war, racism, capital punishment, and addiction. These themes clash directly with the sanitized narratives that mainstream country radio preferred. His outspoken political views made him controversial in traditional country circles. Despite his immense songwriting talent and influence on Americana and outlaw country, mainstream country radio rarely embraced his music. Major awards institutions largely ignored him. The industry pushed him to the fringes, treating him as too political, too raw, too real. But Earle kept going, building a long-lasting career through integrity and raw honesty. His marginalization by Nashville says more about the industry's limitations than Earle's talent. He proved you can have a successful career without compromising your principles, even if it means sacrificing mainstream acceptance. In the early 1960s, Willie Nelson was frustrated beyond belief. Despite writing classics like Crazy and Hello Walls, he couldn't catch a break as a performer in Nashville. The industry was obsessed with the polished Nashville sound. Willie's unconventional voice, offbeat phrasing, and rugged appearance didn't fit. Record labels tried reshaping him, but his albums kept flopping. By 1972, Willie had enough. He packed up and left Nashville for Austin, Texas, where he found a vibrant scene that welcomed his authenticity. A mix of hippies, cowboys, and people who valued real music. This move birthed outlaw country, a genre that rejected Nashville's formulas and embraced raw storytelling and artistic freedom. Willie's 1975 album Red-Headed Stranger, which Nashville feared was too sparse, became a massive hit. Alongside Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash, Willie redefined what country music could be. Eventually, Nashville had to recognize his genius. Willie's journey from Nashville Reject to American Icon proves that staying true to yourself can literally change an entire industry. Today, he's more than a country legend. He's a cultural icon who proved that authenticity beats conformity every single time. Jamie Johnson might have one of the most ironic stories on this list. He's been sidelined by mainstream Nashville for being too authentically country. Let that sink in for a moment. Despite Grammy nominations and critical acclaim, Johnson has faced ongoing resistance because of his commitment to traditional country sounds. Johnson signed with B&A Records and released The Dollar in 2006, showcasing his deep voice and exceptional songwriting. But the album didn't align with country radio's pop-leaning direction, and he was quickly dropped. He went independent to release That Lonesome Song, which Mercury Nashville picked up, earning critical acclaim and Grammy nominations. In 2010, Johnson released The Guitar Song, a double album that debuted at #1 on Billboard's country chart. Despite this success, country radio and his label refused to support it. His refusal to chase trends made him a poor fit for an industry prioritizing radio-friendly pop country. Frustrated, Johnson parted ways with Mercury in 2012. Johnson's story highlights a painful irony. Nashville has become so focused on crossover appeal that artists who sound too traditionally country get pushed aside. He remains one of the most respected voices among real country fans, even if mainstream radio won't acknowledge his brilliance. Skeeter Davis first broke out in the late 1940s as part of the Davis Sisters, scoring a major hit with I Forgot More Than You'll Ever Know. After her singing partner Betty Jack Davis died in a tragic car accident that also left Skeeter with severe injuries, she retired to start a family. Music called her back, and she returned as a solo artist in 1958, becoming an Opry member in 1959. Everything was going well until December 8, 1973, when Davis witnessed police arrest 15 members of a Christian organization at a shopping center. Before performing Amazing Grace on the Opry stage that night, Davis told the audience, "They've arrested 15 people just for telling people that Jesus loves them. And that really burdened my heart. So I thought I would sing you all this song." Her criticism of the Nashville police got her membership suspended, and she was banned from the Opry. Thankfully, the Opry welcomed her back in 1974, and she continued performing there until 2002. Davis remained an Opry member until her death in 2004 at age 72. Her story shows that speaking truth to power can cost you dearly in an industry that values staying in line. Jerry Lee Lewis, known as The Killer, had strong country roots and numerous hits like She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye and What Made Milwaukee Famous. But Lewis never felt truly accepted by Nashville's country establishment, and he made sure they knew it. On January 20, 1973, Lewis was asked to perform at the Opry. They gave him clear rules: no cursing, no rock songs. Lewis immediately decided to break every single rule. He was foul-mouthed throughout, ignored commercial breaks, and performed multiple rock songs including Great Balls of Fire, Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On, and Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good. Lewis also broke another major rule by playing a 40-minute set when most artists were restricted to 2 or 3 songs. It was pure chaos, and the Opry banned him after that performance. He never became an Opry member, though he did play there again in the early 1980s. It took until 2022, shortly before his death, for Lewis to be officially inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. The Killer lived up to his nickname until the very end. Casey Musgraves is one of the most critically acclaimed artists of her generation, with multiple Grammys and global recognition. Yet she's faced persistent resistance from mainstream country radio simply for being herself. Musgraves gained attention with her 2013 debut album, Same Trailer Different Park, which included the hit Follow Your Arrow. That song, with its openly progressive lyrics supporting same-sex relationships and living outside traditional norms, created serious controversy in Nashville. The song even won the CMA Song of the Year award, but country radio stations refused to play it. Her 2018 album Golden Hour won the Grammy for Album of the Year, a rare achievement for a country artist. Yet even with that recognition, country radio gave it minimal support. The message was clear. Musgrave's willingness to challenge cultural and musical norms made her too risky for an industry that prefers artists who stay within carefully defined boundaries. Despite the radio snubs, Musgraves has remained commercially successful by connecting directly with fans who appreciate her authenticity. Her story represents a new generation of country artists, redefining what country music can address and who it can represent. even when the establishment resists. Don Gibson, the legendary singer-songwriter behind Oh Lonesome Me and I Can't Stop Loving You, experienced what might be called a silent exile from Nashville. While never officially banned, he faced industry pushback and marginalization that effectively sidelined him. Gibson struggled with depression, anxiety, and substance abuse during his peak years in the 50s and 60s. These issues led to erratic behavior, missed appearances, and long gaps between recordings. Producers found him difficult to market. By the 1970s, Gibson's chart success declined as younger artists dominated the airwaves. Though he continued recording, Nashville no longer prioritized him. Record labels offered little support, and he received minimal radio play. This marginalization felt like being pushed out, even though no formal action was taken. Gibson did return to the Opry in the 70s and 80s, and he's warmly remembered for his legacy. But his story illustrates how personal struggles combined with industry priorities can effectively end careers without any official blacklisting. Sometimes being forgotten is its own form of exile. Tanya Tucker exploded onto the country scene in 1972 with Delta Dawn when she was just 13 years old. People called her a prodigy with a powerhouse voice far beyond her years. But as Tucker grew up, she evolved into a bold, outspoken, and rebellious woman. Exactly what Nashville wasn't prepared to embrace. Unlike her peers, Tucker refused to conform to the sweetheart image expected of female country artists. She sang with grit and confidence, wore bold outfits, and lived unapologetically in the public eye. Her tumultuous romance with Glenn Campbell drew tabloid headlines, making Tucker a frequent target of media scrutiny and moral judgment from Nashville insiders. Despite her immense talent and string of hits through the 70s and 80s, Tucker was often overlooked for major awards and kept at a distance by influential industry figures. The message was clear. Women who didn't play by the rules would pay a price, regardless of their talent. Tucker's recent comeback with the 2019 album, While I'm Livin', which won her first Grammys at age 61, proved that talent and authenticity ultimately win. But her career path shows how Nashville has historically punished women who refuse to be controlled. While primarily known for rock, Neko Case has country, folk, and Americana influences throughout her work. In 2001, the Opry invited her to the Grand Ole Opry Plaza Party, an outdoor July concert. Here's the problem. Tennessee in July is brutally hot. To make matters worse, the stage was black and positioned next to a barbecue pit. Mid-performance, Case started feeling dizzy and woozy from the heat. She asked for water or a short break, but her requests were ignored. Growing increasingly desperate and fearing heat stroke, Case removed her top in an attempt to cool down. This broke Opry protocol, and she never performed there again. It's a bizarre story that highlights how rigid rules can sometimes lead to absurd outcomes. Case has continued building a successful career in alternative and indie rock, probably grateful she doesn't have to deal with Nashville's peculiar standards. Hank Williams III, grandson of the legendary Hank Williams Sr., has spent his entire career at war with Nashville. Known for his rebellious spirit, gritty sound, and refusal to compromise, Hank III has been highly critical of an industry he believes betrayed its own legacy. One of his biggest points of contention was the Opry's dismissal of his grandfather in 1952. In 2003, Hank III launched a campaign to have his grandfather posthumously reinstated, arguing the Opry owed its success to Hank Sr.'s contributions. Despite public support, the institution refused, stating membership can't be reinstated after death. This rejection fueled Hank III's rebellious streak. He built his fan base through underground shows, independent releases, and fiercely authentic music that often blended country, punk, and metal. His 2006 albums like Straight to Hell were too wild for country traditionalists and too country for rock radio. Nashville didn't know what to do with him, so they effectively ignored him. Hank III eventually faded from the mainstream country scene, but he maintains a devoted cult following who appreciate his refusal to sell out. He represents a third generation of Williams family members who've clashed with Nashville's establishment, proving that sometimes legacy is about more than just success. It's about staying true to your roots, even when the industry wants you to change. So there you have it. 21 country music legends who were banned, blacklisted, or pushed aside by the very industry they helped build. From Hank Williams Sr. in the 1950s to contemporary artists like Margot Price and Sturgill Simpson, the pattern is clear. Nashville has always struggled with artists who refuse to conform. Some of these stories ended in tragedy, others in triumph. But every single one reminds us that authenticity often comes at a cost in an industry obsessed with image and commercial appeal. The beautiful irony? Many of these banned or rejected artists are now considered legends who shaped country music's evolution. Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, they literally created outlaw country because Nashville rejected them. Chris Christopherson changed songwriting forever, despite being told his work was too intellectual. Kitty Wells became the queen of country music despite being censored. Which of these stories resonated most with you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into country music history, smash that like button, share this with your fellow country music fans, and subscribe for more stories about the legends who shaped the music we love. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes being true to yourself is more important than fitting in. These 21 artists proved that legacy isn't built by playing it safe. It's built by staying authentic, even when everyone tells you to change.